you always remember your first. But what if you didn't? What is the first enemy that comes to mind when you think of Dark Souls? Probably one of these guys. Maybe even him. But what is the proper first enemy in every Souls game? Hello everyone! I'm Lost, and this is a brief history of the first enemies of every Souls game. An enemy is a person who is actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. Look, I don't think you're dumb. In fact, you are probably a very intelligent, handsome, and/or cute individual, but this will be relevant soon. This is the first enemy of Dark Souls 1. Or is he? This guy doesn't fight back, so can we really consider him an enemy? The game certainly wants you to think of him like that, because Dark Souls instructs you to hit him. Look at that face! Do you really want to slap someone mentally handicapped? There are two of them in the first corridor. One to teach you light attacks, and one to teach you heavy attack. But then, what about this guy? In the water? No, that's another pacifist. So what is the very first enemy that fights back? Oh yeah. Since all the prior mobs refuse to engage in violence with me, the real first enemy in Dark Souls is the Asylum Demon. This chunky boy is a remix of the original Vanguard demon found in Demon Souls. He's also completely naked. If you're completely naked, then may I suggest a shirt from this video sponsor, Project Orochi. I nailed that transition. Project Orochi is a streetwear brand who flavors their clothing with a delicious nod to video games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. Look how good the Asylum Demon looks with this shirt on. Fun fact, the Asylum Demon shares its battle theme with the Taurus Demon, and the Taurus Demon looks like he would enjoy the Pontiff design. My favorite Project Orochi shirt is this one with the Clean Rot Knight, whose suffering has been lovingly captured with intense detail. There are loads of designs on offer, and because it's Christmas, now is the perfect time to get yourself or a loved one some uniquely stylish gamer outfits. If you use my promo code LMS, you get 10% off your entire purchase. And hey, check out their Instagram if you want to see more. Thank you, Project Orochi. After you awaken from your little nap in the ancient gazebo of teleportation, the first creature you will come across are these monkey cats. The DS2 guidebook describes them as such. These skittish, dog-like creatures, sure, inhabit the small meadow near the Firekeeper's hut. Are these the Firekeeper's pets, or simply a form of life native to the limbo that exists between Drangleic and the outside world? I don't care. They seem to be afraid of me though, which is fair enough. However, in contrast to the hollows of Dark Souls 1, these little bastards will defend themselves should you punch one in the face. I'd say anyone who attempts to rip off your face and then smear your newly exposed flesh with excrement should be considered an enemy. But if we simply leave these creatures to their own devices, then the next creature we encounter will straight up be aggressive. No motivation required. This is the Hippo Cyclops, or Ogre as the game guide refers to them as. Their entry reads, Ogres resembles a cross between a Cyclops and a hippopotamus, and possesses a horn on their foreheads. Ogres have a large amount of HP and deal significant... Look, the rest is extremely uninteresting. The hippo isn't a mandatory enemy, but it is the first enemy that you can come across that isn't passive. You can find him by taking a left before this bridge, go through some bushes, and then up a hill, but not before you see his tracks in the mud. See, that's nice tension building. They really did spend some thought on this. Moments later, he's revealed to you in his full glory. You probably won't be able to beat him at the moment, considering that you're currently a piece of rotting bacon, but once you go to the women and complete your character creation, you will have a much easier time slaying the beast. Anyway, once the ogre is dead, you will be rewarded with a stone ring, which gives you a fairly chunky boost to your poise damage. But Lost, the ogre is not a mandatory enemy, so what's the real enemy of DS2? There is none. you could go into one of the game's many tutorial areas, but all of these are optional, so unless you count the self-deletion chamber, there is no real enemy between you and the game's hub, Majula, from where you can decide to go in many different directions, or potentially get mauled to death by demon piglets. This was, by the way, my first death in Dark Souls 2. Wow! Finally someone who fights back. Out of all of the Souls games, Dark Souls 3 is the most straightforward. This is a Grave Warden, and he attacks you on sight, but don't be mad at him. You are technically the monster here who has risen from the grave, he just wants to put you back. Fun fact, the title of Grave Warden is a popular one in the From Software catalogue of games, as you can find Grave Wardens in both Dark Souls 2 and Elden Ring. This guy seems to be a cleric, since some of the later ones in this area will drop cleric sacred chimes, which means that the first person that tried to kill you in Dark Souls 3 was a man of God. Let's go back a bit. Or forward, depending on which Demon Souls you played first. After going through a space vagine, you arrive at your very first encounter, and would you believe it? Another pacifist. Despite his face overflowing with suspicion and disgust, he will not fight back, no matter how many times you slap him. However, there is a way for us to coach out some violence here. First, you have to get him between these crates. Now let's get a bit technical. If an NPC doesn't complete their path in some time proportional to the expected distance traveled, the game will assume that they are stuck. If they are by a breakable object, like these boxes, it assumes it's stuck on those and will force the NPC to do an attack. Not at the boxes, but just in general, hoping that whatever was there is now smashed. Now, look, I know it's scary when Daddy starts punching the furniture, but I will still not consider this guy to be our enemy. The real enemy would be this fella, who is the second person you will come across in this area. This guy has no issues with stabbing you in the larynx. Unfortunately for him, you can't actually die in the very first area of Demon Souls. Side note, I love the little story Demon Souls has in the tutorial area, where the soldiers are all there cooking dinner for the Chunker Demon. You wake up on a table just as some elderly homeless man starts injecting you with some special liquid that he has prepared. You need to get ready, because in a few hours you will either be tripping out of your goddamn mind, or you will be bleeding from every orifice. Ah yes, tripping it is. After whatever that was, you walk down the stairs and see a doggo om-nom-nomming on somebody who's having a very bad day. This enemy is called a Scourge beast, and it makes sense that FromSoft chose this thing to be your very first encounter, given that it's pretty emblematic of what you will be experiencing in the wider game. There are a few things of note here. A lot of us are not expected to live after seeing this guy, or more correctly, after he sees us. It's a fairly difficult enemy to kill if you are new to the game. That being said, you find him with his back turned to you, allowing for a potential backstab. And his health is not as full. He's taken some damage already, probably from the poor guy being eaten. Sekiro is a different beast. It's Asian, and also because you start out with no ability to attack, unlike the games that came before. Now, you are helpless in the face of your opposition. At least for the first few minutes. So, you have no option but to sneak around while listening to the first enemies in the game talking shit about you. Look, I will not stand for this bullying behavior, and later on, I will respond in a reasonable and measured fashion. These guys are here to teach you stealth. And while you can't engage with them immediately, it won't take long before you, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I hate this guy. The first enemy you encounter in Elden Ring will be the Grafted Scion. This is what happens when Godric has an excessive amount of time, people, and superglue on his many hands. However, the reason I dislike this guy so much has nothing to do with him looking like he's gone through a Lovecraftian meat grinder. He's just so unreasonably hard to beat. Nobody beats this guy their first time through the game, and if you say you did in the comments down below, I will personally travel to your home and piss in your left shoe. Also, I don't understand why he's here. Why is this guy guarding the entrance to the lands between? I know we're close to Godric's castle, but so what? Whatever lore reason it has to be there is far too vague to have any real impact, and the only build-up he gets is us walking up and seeing a big empty space perfect for a boss arena, and every boss gets that. I fail to see how this guy teaches us anything except how to die, which is a pretty self-explanatory process. So, what can we learn from this? Well, maybe the real enemies were the friends we made along the way. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching the video, I really appreciate it. If you want the next video, it's already out on the Patreon. So you just click the link, go there, give me money, and I will see you later. Kisses!